What's up, guys? Christian Soto here for RedChipPoker.com, and I am back. So, last few videos I've made had a lot of good commentary, so I figure I continue with my provoking thought process talk. So, in this hand comes from Brixx, and Brixx is having a pretty common problem that happens in live games, and he's talking about a couple people limp and he opens and we're going 4-way to the flop and he whiffs, and it seems to happen a lot. He's bloating these pots, and he's whiffing, and he's playing very multi-way, etc. So just for reference, in this game is a 2-5 game of 4 people limp and is on the button to him and he makes a 40, and all 4 people call. So obviously we're going 5-way to the flop, etc. Right? I don't care about the flop or whatever. That's not really going to be the discussion of this video. It's going to be how to solve this problem, right? So there's a concept I call pain threshold. So there is a pain threshold in every game, right? So if you're playing 1-2, sometimes the pain threshold is 20, right? If you're playing 2-5, sometimes the pain threshold is 50, right? So it's your job to find what the pain threshold is in your game, right? So if 40 is not working, right, then you have to start going to 50. If 50 doesn't work, then 60, and so on and so forth. And that is going to cause a pain threshold. Eventually, they will fold. And once you find that number, you have to continue to go to that number. So let's say, for example, the number in this game is 60. Then it's your job to just keep throwing out 60 out there, and either one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to lay down to you, or you're going to go heads up, or something like that, right? I've been in games where the pain threshold was 75, and I'm just throwing out 3 green chips, and that's what it is, right? And that's fine. Now there is a certain other dynamic, right? So let's say the pain threshold is just too high, right? Let's say they're not folding to 50, they don't fold to 60, they don't fold to 75. Then obviously we're not going to start throwing a black chip out there as a raise. That's just kind of crazy. So if the pain threshold becomes too high, then you have to start playing their game and kind of mixing it up with them. You're going to have to start limping with them, start seeing cheap flops, find a different edge. And that's something that people don't feel comfortable with. For example, let's say you weren't in late position here, right? Let's say you were in early position, right? And you have instead of king jack offsuit, you have king jack suited, right? Now, what is the value in you raising that hand pre-flop, right? In fact, what is the value in you raising even a hand as strong as ace king pre-flop, right? If you're going to go 5-way to the flop, right? So, and this is a concept I've spoken about numerous times, right? So there's only one value in raising your hand pre-flop, right? And the value isn't in the hand strength, it's in the isolation of your raise, right? So raising pre-flop is not for value, it's only for isolation. So if your raise pre-flop does not garner you isolation, then you're making a mistake, right? Because let's say you raise with king jack of clubs from EP, you go 5-way, it's going to be very hard for you to win this hand. You're sharing equity with 4 other hands, and that's not really that good. To be honest, you could kind of even limp raise that hand. You can limp call that hand. There's a lot of other things you can do rather than just throwing 40 out there and now we're going to go as 5-way and it's a jump ball for the flop. And that's really not how poker is played, right? So you have to try to differentiate yourself and find a way to win. So there's 2 options, right? You have to find the pain threshold of your opponents. That's usually going to be, in a game like this, something like 50, 60, maybe 75. Once it crosses, I believe 75, then your game is just too crazy, and you're gonna need to like start limping hands, finding some limp raises, um, getting creative, like limp call like certain hands, and just like play flops and like kind of mix it up with these guys. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You got to step away from the book and get into like how to play real like these games, because this is not your standard games. Um, Secondly, I want you to just understand that raising preflop is not for value, right? It's simply for isolation. So you have to make it a size that gets you that isolation, because that's what the job is done for. So there's no value in raising like ace king from under the gun if you're gonna go 5-way. It's a lot better if you just limp and then face a raise and then just back raise, because that's gonna guard your isolation. Um, so that's kind of like the nuances of this thing. Like, I don't want to like continue to go on and on and on, but just remember those two things, like paint threshold and raising for isolation. So with that said, peace.